with the DNA epigenetics and the stressors, you've got the perfect storm. And the Time magazine, I love the way they said it, poisoning an entire generation. So when we look at the CDC and why did they say that children born after the year 2000 are not expected to live as long as their parents, this is one of the reasons of what we've done to our environment and our food supply. So glyphosate actually also makes both mercury and aluminum more toxic. And so if you now add in vaccines that have mercury or aluminum in them, and you add all the other sources of aluminum in our world, aluminum cookware, deodorant, aluminum cans, like there's so much of it, aluminum foil, right? And if you put glyphosate in that combination, now we're getting this stuff showing up in our brains, and it creates inflammation in the entire body. So not only do we have leaky gut, now we have leaky brain, leaky kidneys, leaky blood vessels, right? It's showing up leakiness in the whole body. So there is this product that I'm a big fan of. It's called Restore, and it's a communication substance. And what it does is it helps the cells in your gut, it helps them self-identify so they can talk to each other. So the healthy cell is saying, I actually am a healthy cell. And then the sick cell is saying, I'm a sick cell and I need help, I need to be repaired. And then there's a third cell which is saying, I should die because I'm so unhealthy, I'm not actually effective, I should just die. When our system is unhealthy and not communicating, the ones that should die are still there, and they keep trying to perform, and they're not performing well at all. The sick ones are not repairing, and the healthy cells are even being attacked because they're not being recognized appropriately. So autoimmunity, we're attacking our own healthy cells. So this Restore actually has been shown to be a communication substance that allows the cells to communicate with each other, so the healthy cells can say, follow me, all right, and boost me. And the repaired cells that need repair actually get what they need to be repaired, and the sick cells die. They should be dying, and they do get to die.
So what's in it? And what makes
It's something called a ligand, and I know the fellow that developed it. He discovered, he had been doing research on cancer. He's a medical doctor doing research on cancer solutions, drugs for cancer. And he looked at what the structure was and had studied that. And then he moved into wanting to study nutrition. And somebody put in front of him this white paper on soil health. And he's like looking through it, and all of a sudden he sees this picture, and it's the molecular structure in the soil. And he's like, that looks exactly like the cancer drug we were trying to create. It looks exactly the same. And he says, what is this? And he found out that it was in healthy soil, there are these communication substances. So that in nature, if there's a forest and there's a blight that starts to hit one end of the forest, through these ligands, these communication substances in the soil, they will communicate and send messages so that the trees on the other side get the message, here comes a blight, you better uptake more boron so you can tolerate it. And by the time the blight moves to the forest, the trees at the other end are actually healthy. And that's what the communication substance does. What is it that destroys this communication substance? Glyphosate can destroy it. And so now we have plants and crops that are grown in soils that are not uptaking this communication substance, so we're not getting it in our food, so we're not getting it in our bodies. So you can use this product Restore to, it actually has been shown to protect you from glyphosate damage and to repair the damage from glyphosate. So if you take it before you eat, if any glyphosate has gotten in, you're going to protect your gut from that. If you forget, you can take it afterwards to help repair it. So I do really like this product, and the other name for it is magic dirt water, because it actually comes from the soil. And he found a source, I think it was in a desert, that had just been untouched, and he went down deep and he found that the communication substance was still there. And that's what the source is that he's using. And that's all I know about it. So you'll have to go listen to Dr. Zach Bush and all the interviews that he's done. He's the one that created it. And fascinating, fascinating. So what are the other do's and don'ts then around diet that you want to be paying attention to? First off, think of our ancestors. How were they eating? So non-starchy vegetables, some fruit, meat, poultry, and fish, range-fed eggs, natural fats, some nuts and seeds, and drinking water. That was it. That was what we ate. That was what we were designed for. Okay, but in our modern world, no refined carbohydrates, right? No cereal grains. We already talked about grains. No sweeteners. All right, maybe they would have had some honey, right? But not sugar, not cane sugar they wouldn't have had. No bad vegetable oils. So the exceptions are going to be olive oil, avocado oil, palm oil, coconut oil, and some of the nut oils. Those are good oils. But all the other vegetable oils like corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil, those kinds of vegetable oils, that's what you want to stay away from. The legumes, again, they're going to have all those same anti-nutrients that are in them, similar to the grains. Dairy products, soda, juice, and alcohol, right? Those are all the don'ts. So if you just want to start from somewhere, this is the place to start from. If you're not already doing this, this is the direction to go in. Now, again, I have individual people that I'm going to have to refine what my recommendations are. So people that are sensitive to histamine, or people that are trying to have gluten-free or paleo or ketogenic. Like, I'll go into more refined recommendations with the individual, but this is the place to start when you're looking at how can I be nice to my gut.
What does it say about rice?
Wild rice is acceptable, and there are the ancient grains that are more acceptable. So yeah, that's it. It's actually, let me just answer that question. If we look at the ancient cultures that did use grains, they used them in very particular ways that would neutralize the anti-nutrients. So they would have soaked, sprouted, or fermented those grains before they would have eaten them. There's a great book called Nourishing Traditions. It's a cookbook that is based on Weston A. Price's work, where he studied ancient cultures that had no chronic illness, and he looked at how are they eating, and he found that it was the way, if they were going to eat grains, it was the way they prepared them. So they either soaked them, sprouted them, or fermented them. So if you're not doing that, then you just want to avoid them. If you're looking for some suggestions of books, this is a great book. It's called 1 Degree of Change. And this is the hardcover version, but you can get a free copy of this online. And you just go to, I put it on your handout there. So you just go to standardprocess.com/products, literature, and then 1 Degree of Change. And you'll find it.
Is that going to be an ebook, or are they going to send it to you?
No, it's an electronic book, yeah. You could order a hard copy, or if you want one, we usually stock them in the office. This is my last copy right now. We'll have more in. They're $15, so it's a great price too. And you can look at this later if you want to. Okay, so now when we talk about the IBS, remember, it's the stress in our environment, but remember, if we have subluxations that are already weakening our system, and then we add the toxic foods, that's that perfect storm that happens. So what are the places of subluxation that I find most commonly with irritable bowel, Crohn's, celiacs? It's going to be, again, this upper cervical region here, but also this area, which is nerve supply to the small intestines through the middle of the spine here. And so, again, I talk about this as a chemical problem because it's already weakened from the subluxations, but then it's when we couple that with adding in the irritants, the toxicants from our diets. All right, now let's look at acid reflux, heartburn, GERD. So that's the upper part. So when you, actually, there we go. So when we look at the stomach, here's the esophagus, and then when we swallow food, it comes down through here, and then there's a sphincter right here that closes. There's a flap that closes, so it lets the food through, and then it goes into the stomach. And what happens in the stomach? This is where we digest our food. So the stomach acids, break that food down. The pH of the stomach is around the 4 range, whereas up in the esophagus it's around 7. I think it's 7.4 and 4.3, something like that. And so this is very acidic, and the lining of the stomach is designed to be able to handle that. But the esophagus is not designed for that. So if there's something that goes wrong with this trap door here, so that the acids get back up into the esophagus, it's going to destroy the lining of the esophagus. You're going to be in trouble, and it's uncomfortable. That's what heartburn is. It's when those juices from the stomach are getting up into the esophagus. And then at the other end, we've got this bolus of food with the stomach acid, and when it's digested and ready to leave the stomach, there's another valve down here that then allows it to go into the small intestines, where we start to now extract the nutrients out of it, and then it goes all the way through this large intestine where we extract the water out and put it back into the body. So this is also a tonal thing. Just like the muscles can have nerve supply that affects their tone, this area also has a nerve supply that will affect it. And so that the subluxations that can affect this area are again going to be in this region right here. Now this is one, we are seeing such an increase in acid reflux and heartburn in our culture, and it parallels the use of devices in our posture. So when we have poor posture all day long because we're on devices, we see more and more incidences of heartburn. And there's a few reasons for it. One is that the posture, and this is what we would call a microtrauma, right? We've got the macrotraumas of the car accidents and the sports injuries and the slips and the falls, but we've got these microtraumas that are actually promoting and perpetuating the subluxation. So you can see the posture here, all ages. And we have an actual official name for this now, which is called tech neck. It actually has a diagnosable name, tech neck. So when this is happening, it puts a lot of stress right in this area right here. And so what it also does is it will tend to compress the airwaves. When we're hunched forward, it compresses the airways and it compresses the stomach. So this posture will put pressure on the stomach, and it can push the juices from the stomach up into the esophagus. So if you're struggling with heartburn or reflux or GERD, you just want to think of how can I just open up and elongate this area. And especially after you eat. How many people that struggle with GERD, they notice if it's a big meal late at night, that's when it's the worst. Because they eat that big meal, their stomach is jam-packed full, and then they go and sit. Or they try to sleep, and they're crushed down on it, and it's just causing that reflux. So you want to mechanically, physically, you want to open that up. It's a postural thing. For the most part, that's a big part of it. So how do we know if we have subluxations? There's different ways that we can analyze these subluxations, because remember, most of the time they're silent until they've been there for a while. So can I have a volunteer come up so I can show you? And we use instrumentation in the practice. I can feel the spine. We can feel the motion or the lack of motion in the joints. But visualization is a great one, and it's looking at posture. So who wants to come up for a sec so I can just show you? Come on up. All right. So if you stand, just face this way, right? Okay. So she's been playing basketball. She's been carrying a heavy backpack. And when we look, can you see how one ear is a little higher than the other? Can you see that? And can you see how one shoulder is a little higher? You see that? Mm-hmm. So those are some of the indications of where there may be what's happening in the spine, is that when we have imbalances. Okay? Turn to the side. Okay? And so here, looking straight ahead, right? So we want to look to see, is the center of the head, oh, it actually is over the center of the shoulder, over the hips. That's what we want to see, right? But in many teenagers nowadays, what do we tend to see? That, where the head's out in front. Yeah, thank you very much. All right, so looking at the posture is some of the indicators of where there may be subluxations. So how do we correct subluxations? First, we need to break the bad habits that keep recreating them. So that's really what this class is about, is how can I get you starting to move in the right direction of just reducing the bad habits. And the bad habits are going to be how you eat, how you think, and how you move. All of them are important in digestive issues. Some people think it's just about how you eat. Nope. You have to manage the stresses in all three of those categories. And again, posture, sedentary lifestyle is part of the picture as well. Then adding specific exercises in. So we want to get the spine healthier. So we'll add in exercises to get the spine healthier. And again, that may be more individual for the person, depending on where those weaknesses are showing up. And then finally, the chiropractic adjustments in a rhythm, so that we can start to remold the system and start to get the system back online. And of course, because we live in the stressful environment we live in, where we keep being overloaded by stresses, that's one of the reasons why chiropractic care in a rhythm works so well, so that we can keep up with the stresses that we're exposed to. So those are and I want to just offer to you that there are 3 reasons why we have the problems we have in our health today. The first one we already talked about is the wrong definition of health, how you feel, right? The second one is people not taking responsibility for their outcomes and for their behaviors. And again, the media is teaching them all the wrong ways to behave. The third reason is that in our culture, people are also trained to do nothing about their health until it's failing them, until they already have problems. Procrastination is the thief of health. So that is another reason, a dangerous belief. There's nothing that can be done. Oh, there's nothing you can do about it, or maybe it'll go away, or all these dangerous beliefs. Oh, just the drugs will work. Those are the things that actually keep perpetuating the problem. So for those of you that are already under care, if you need some more guidance on diet, if you haven't gotten enough information tonight and you want to be more specific, let me know so that we can be more refined with you. For those of you that are not under care yet, if you're interested in finding out whether you have subluxations and whether I can help, the usual cost of our new patient exam is $210, and that's where we run all kinds of scans in your nervous system to really identify whether or not you have subluxations. And then we sit down and we go over what your challenges are, what your goals are, and then we figure out, can we help or not? And if we can help, then we develop a plan for you. So the usual cost of that is $210, but because you're here tonight, we always like to make it easy for folks, so we're capping it at $47. If you do want to get yourself checked, then we'll cap it at $47 for you tonight. So thank you so much for your time and attention tonight, and think about what your action steps are going to be from what you've learned tonight, and put them into action as soon as possible. Right? Don't wait. Really start working with this. All right? And then anybody else that has questions, then you can just come up and I'll answer those individually. All right? So thank you so much.
Thank you.